Many people nowadays practice yoga for many good reasons. It's relaxing and therefore reduces stress. It's good for your health, it enhances concentration. But this is not all that yoga offers. Yoga extends much beyond this, much further. My name is Prema, a disciple of Prabhuji. Together we will explore topics in yoga to better understand Prabhuji's work. Before we see what Prabhuji says about yoga, I wanted us to check the English definition of the word so we can base ourselves on a common ground from which to start. And this is the definition by Merriam-Webster. 1. A Hindu theistic philosophy teaching the suppression of all activity of body, mind, and will in order that the self may realize its distinction from them and attain liberation. 2. A system of physical postures, breathing techniques, and sometimes meditation derived from yoga, but often practiced independently, especially in Western cultures, to promote physical and emotional well-being. If we look and compare these two senses, they may seem to contradict one another, because in sense 2, the physical and mental aspects are promoted, while in sense 1, they are suppressed. Number 2 reflects a popular meaning of yoga, which is a reduced form of a broader sense described in number 1. I'm saying reduced form because physical and emotional health, while they are very important in the process, they're not the end goal. Okay? They are serving for a higher purpose. Number 1 is the full scope. To say that yoga is for health is like saying that cars are for driving or cups are for water. They are by no means designed for driving and holding water, respectively, but ultimately a car is a vehicle for traveling from place to place. It was not the need to drive that led to the invention of the car, rather the need to arrive from place A to place B. Cups are vessels for drinking. Our interest in water comes from our need to drink it. Without the need to drink, I highly doubt we would be seeing cups in every household. Yoga, only for the purpose of health, is like owning a car to only drive it in the driveway or only to the car wash, or using the cup only to keep the water. There's nothing bad about it, of course. We may enjoy it, but it's less than the full potential of the device. One might think that what could be a greater purpose for life other than health? Meaning, why sense 1 is the broader form when 2 gives us everything we wish for? Health, beauty, and calm. Then here's why. We are not only the body and the mind. Those are the vehicles by which we commute on the physical plan. There is a little problem that we forgot who we really are. Thinking ourselves to be the body and the mind, we are trying to achieve perpetual happiness by those means, by satisfying the vehicle, giving it comfort and pleasure by every possible means. But the driver, the one who lives in the body, the one that really matters, is overlooked. And many people walk on this planet not knowing who they are. I am John Doe, pointing at my body. But no, John Doe is a name, and there are many people whose name is John Doe. Who are you? That one, the self, the one that is in there, that really is. We can practice yoga for the purpose of health. We may enjoy good health, but depends on our expectations and our aspirations, we can potentially realize higher levels of our existence. Now, Prabhuji, in the chapter Purna Yoga, in his book Yoga Union with Reality, he gives a short paragraph in definition or in recaption of yoga. And he writes, "Yoga is an endeavor to reunite what has never been separated with the meaning of developing full consciousness that we are not objects and that no one or nothing exists that can or must be enlightened." I'll read it again. Yoga is an endeavor to reunite what has never been separated with the meaning of developing full consciousness that we are not objects and that no one or nothing exists that can or must be enlightened. It is interesting to see that Prabhuji's definition looks different than the one from the dictionary. And it's not because any of them is more or less than the other. Rather, we see another standpoint. Prabhuji speaks about his own experience. The official definition is there. It's a very good definition. It gives an accurate outline. Prabhuji walked that path. He perfected that path and has the realization of yoga. So his perspective is of an insider, and this is very valuable. Okay, if we want to visit Rome, we can open a map and read a book about Rome or meet a tourism consultant. All this will give us very good and accurate information about the city. But what will be another source of information that we will always appreciate? To talk to someone who visited Rome and is sharing a first-hand experience. Another example. Today, many people shop online, and so you found the product that you believe you need. It has all the features that you want. Now what you are going to do, you're going to read the reviews. What is the value of the review? First-hand experience. Someone bought this product before you, and it can give you perspective. It can give you what it is like, how to use it, what is the downside and the upsides of it. This is truly the value of Prabhuji's words. He say what he has found, first-hand experience of someone who traversed this path and reached its goal. Moreover, this definition of Prabhuji, in my opinion, has a bonus feature. In his words, we don't find answers to our questions in form of solutions to our problems. Do this and you will get that. In fact, his words are not always directed to the mind or to the intellect. When we want to know any topic, usually the motive is to possess it by means of understanding its character and mechanism and be able to manipulate it to our benefit. Prabhuji most often won't help us satisfy this need to put it under our control, to possess it. Instead, he responds in a way that opens you to wonder, to question your motivations. He makes you leave aside everything you think you know, definitions, concepts, the sense of possession, and throws you into the state of looking without the mental lenses. And here too, in this definition, by talking about his experience, he invites you to put aside definitions and check, what about you? What is your experience? Can your experience go deeper and clearer? He says, don't stop at any point thinking that you're done. There's always more to it. this is of the utmost importance, one's own experience. Prabhuji doesn't want you to live by rules just because they are there and you accept it as true. He stresses often the differences between belief and revelation, knowledge and wisdom. Institutional movements he refers to as isms, and an authentic experience within the heart of the enlightened one. In every pair of those examples, you can notice that the former is sourced from society, while the latter is originating in the individual and therefore authentic. And this is really what yoga is all about, to see with our own eyes. Prabhuji opens his definition saying that yoga is an endeavor. One of the meanings of the word yoga is discipline. There are many kinds of yoga methods. For example, the Hatha Yoga, the psychophysiological practice, the Raja Yoga, the study of the mind, Nada Yoga, sound and music, or Kundalini Yoga, the energetic polarity. Those are to mention a few. Each of them stands for a practical aspect, a practicing method of a theory pertaining to the ultimate truth. The truth is a revelation. The word yoga then takes two meanings: the discipline, the manual, so to speak, how to and what to do. And the state of perfection would also mean yoga. One significant difference between Western culture and the Eastern one is what we expect from life. In the Western culture, life is mainly focused on pleasure of the body and the senses. Material accomplishments are highly appreciated. The wealthiest individuals are the most powerful, and we all look up to them as those who have the utmost potential to enjoy. On the contrary, poor people are looked down upon. They have less means by which to derive pleasure in life. Their life is centered on the need to survive. So the consensus is the poor are miserable, the wealthy are happy. Religious approach is not always different. We are expected to accept a belief to get a desirable reward. Not now, but later, to go to heaven, not to hell. Why? In heaven we enjoy longer. In hell we suffer longer. Whereas for yogis, life in this world is a school. We are here to learn and develop. Success is when we free ourselves from material conditioning, from that conditioning. And our happiness is, and satisfaction does not depend on material circumstances, on pleasure of the body and the senses. Yogis seek something else, going back to the real nature, to our origin, that is Satchit Ananda, absolute truth, consciousness and bliss. If yoga was just about resting, relaxation of the thoughts and the muscles, and about forgetting our problems, then there was probably no reason to incorporate countless physical and mental practices. Resting on a hammock would do the job, or maybe drinking wine. In fact, in many countries, there are laws to ensure workers take time off to recuperate. And many people take breaks from their daily routine to rest or engage in recreational activities, so they feel recharged. But as soon as they are back to normal, they again experience the same stress and load. And it goes on and on. Life goes around and around in a cycle of working more to get the extra resources to spend in vacation, And vacationing, so not to burn out in continuous work. What hammocks and recreational activities can't do is free us from this conditioning. Yoga doesn't come to eliminate our problems of life. Those are unavoidable. Rather, it teaches us that pain is not the problem and pleasure is not the solution. Pleasure will come and go, whether we strive for it or not. And pain will come and go, whether we escape it or not. Because both are two sides of the same coin, two ends of the same rope. They cannot be isolated, but they can be transcended. We make endeavors in many fields, right? Physically, intellectually, or on the social level. We make romantic endeavors, professional endeavors. Striving for accomplishments is an attempt to add something we believe we don't have enough of it. Even when we want to rid of something, such as the clutter in the drawer or stop smoking, we actually want more of something else. We want more order or better health. Now, if you examine all these kinds of endeavors in your life and everything that we do, what we are trying to achieve, what is the goal? Pursuing pleasure. We're pursuing pleasure and escaping pain. All our efforts are centered on two movements that are essentially one, raga and dvesha, attraction and aversion. Pursuing pleasure and escaping pain. Pursuing pleasure, we cook all week to have an enjoyable Thanksgiving feast, or we pack a suitcase and take a long flight to enjoy vacation. Escaping pain is any effort made to avoid a painful situation. Okay? We go to work to avoid being penniless and hungry. We go to the dentist to get rid of toothache. One day, we start to feel emptiness, disappointment, because we get to the conclusion that material things doesn't give us what we're searching for. And we take to religion or spirituality and start making endeavors in this field. We change our diet, we change our clothes, we start going to church or satsang and talk about scriptures or energies. What we're trying to get now, what is that feeling of meaning and fulfillment that we want? Pleasure. Again, we are in pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain. We find ourselves in the same game, swimming around in the same pond, just making another loop. Just now, we want to be an enlightened being, a spiritual master or a saint. So we want recognition, to experience the highest levels of meditation, give the best discourses, write spiritual bestsellers, have many followers. So pleasure. Again, we are in pursuit of pleasure and escaping of pain. So what is going on? We'll take a closer look at the classical yoga, as it is described by Patanjali Maharishi in the Yoga Sutras. He opens his treatise by saying, what is yoga? Hatha yoga anusasana. Now yoga is explained. Verse 2, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is a cessation of the mental movements. What are the mental movements? It's that stream of thoughts, emotions, memories, ideas, desires, etc., Let's take a moment to understand this point because it's important. What is the mind? It's common to think that the mind is one of the functioning of the brain. But this is from the material point of view. There's always more than one way to look at the world, to have a perspective of the world. If we stand at the foot of the mountain, we look at the mountain and say, the mountain is high. But if we're situated at the top, we say, the valley is deep. We're in the same scenario, but situated differently. In the same way, when we perceive ourselves as body, we say we have legs. Their functioning is to walk. The mouth is for speaking and eating, and with the eyes we see. And the brain controls all the body and cognitive functioning. Now, if we look at the same from a yogic perspective, we will start with consciousness. And we will say, the formless Brahman is the ultimate reality, the complete whole. The material manifestation is a process of concealment of consciousness. The more consciousness is concealed, the more it takes form. So our body is not the cause of all the physical and cognitive capabilities. The opposite is true. The body is merely an expression of subtler levels. The physical body takes the form of the mind. The mind forms from subtler substance. Okay? The first notion of division from Brahman, from the whole, is that sense of separation. The thought, I am the door. So when the mind is empty from any activity, it actually doesn't exist. The physical body is material. Okay? When there is no body, no flesh, skin and bones, then there is no body. Non-existence of a body. The body only exists between its conception in the mother's womb and its disintegration after death, but not before or after. Similarly, the mind is only thoughts. It has existence only as long as there is a thought. A thought is born, a mental wave. It surfaces for some time and subsides. But no thoughts are no mind. It actually doesn't exist. Why do we think that the mind has a continuous existence? Why does it feel solid? It's like when there are many people. So we see a crowd. Although the crowd is made of many individuals, we don't see them. We see a solid mass of people. It will require a closer and precise look to go and separate each individual from the crowd. And similarly, the mind is very crowded with thoughts to the point that we don't see separation. Verse 3, Tadadrashtu svarupe avastanam. Then the perceiver is situated in his original form. Verse 4, what is not yoga? Vritti svarupyam itaratara. At other times, there is conformity with the mental-emotional energy. It sounds simple because it's not doing something. It's stopping to do something. But at the same time, it's not so simple because mental activity is not easy to just stop. Like, if I walk, so I stop walking. For most of us, thoughts are involuntary. The moment we open our eyes in the morning, we immediately start from getting oriented. What is the time? What do I need to do today? Or perhaps we will remember the dreams or utter a prayer. But our mind is on from the first moment. Now, try to estimate how many hours per day your mind is working, receiving, projecting, and processing. pretty much all day long. Not only during the day, even at nights, after we go to sleep and our senses are shut, our subconscious mind is still processing, showing us worlds and giving us experience very similar to those we have in the waking state. So the moment of Niruddha, the breaks in between the thoughts are so short that we rarely notice them. There is, however, one longer stretch of cessation in which the mind doesn't exist. It's the one happening during dreamless sleep. Then the mind is practically absent. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that if you do yoga you go to work in that state. No. But the experience of this deep sleep is of complete peace and bliss. And this is the original state. And yoga helps us get back to this mindless state of bliss while being aware. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 33, Arjuna speaks to Krishna. O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Verse 34. The mind is turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, and subduing it is more difficult than controlling the wind. In verse 35, Krishna answers, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment. Now we are seeing the extent of the problem. Okay? Arjuna, the best warrior in Hindu culture, he's standing in front of Lord Krishna and claiming that he can't control the mind. So who are we to speak? Actually, it's not our fault. There is something bigger that's acting. The classical yoga is based on the Sankhya philosophy, a traditional school within Hinduism that categorizes existence. All matter in the universe is called Prakriti. Now, matter for that instance is not only solids, liquids, and gases, it's practically anything you can think of, including thinking itself and the thought I. Okay? So as far as we can perceive, it's everything. Prakriti's three primary qualities called Gunas are tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas is the quality of ignorance, rajas of passion, and sattva of goodness. To give examples, tamas would manifest as chaos, darkness, inertia, and laziness. Rajas as movement and activity, competitiveness or aggression, and sattva as clarity, harmony, balance. The entire material manifestation is a product of the imbalance and intermingling of these three primary qualities. And every substance, every object, activity, thought, energy is a different combination of the three. Then further down the ladder of the material manifestation, those will take more and more substantial form and will become more familiar to us as the intellect, the ego, the mind, and the senses, until at the bottom of the ladder, the grossest manifestation are the elements: the earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Those are the solids, liquids, and gases. When it is said that we can't control the mind, we shouldn't feel like victims of these three gunas. They're not monsters who abducted us and we need to fight them. We have to understand that this is our substance. Take the raw material out of something, take the wood out of the chair, take the gold out of the ring, or take the light and the heat out of the sun, then the whole thing is annulled. Therefore, trying to control or resist the gunas is not possible. The gunas determine what we are. Say, I want to be an apple, and I force myself into being an apple. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to be an apple. No, there's nothing I can do about it. It's not in my hands. I also can't decide where I will be born, what will be my height or hair color, and similarly, as far as acting, thinking, deciding, desiring, feeling, etc., we are not the actual doers. It is matter. Matter acts. It by itself, it acts. Okay, so what is the advice given to Arjuna? Krishna says there is a way to outsmart it by constant practice and detachment. I perceive this book because I'm not the book. Okay? No identification. I'm different from the book. There is detachment. If the book is damaged, nothing happens to me. I cut my hair at the hairdresser because I'm not the hair. My hair was cut short, but I am not affected. Then I go to plastic surgeon to get my nose fixed. Is it still me then? And what if I think a certain way and then change my mind? I'm the same speaker, but think differently. And if I had a life-changing experience, I have undergone a complete transformation, and today I am a different person. Who is a different person? And who is the other one? And in this way, we go deeper and deeper into our subjectivity until we find what does not change. Even while testifying that I am a new person, even when this body was once a baby, today an adult, and will be very old, even when the cells of the body and the brain cells too are changing all the time, something deeper stays the same. Do you perceive a separate sense of self, of I, from that you had 10 or 20 years ago? You look at a picture of a baby and say, this is me. Or you remember experience from 5th grade and say, I was there. It was me. The one who spilled orange juice on the teacher's desk. Does that one that was there feels any different than the one you are now? That sense of unchanging observer is there throughout. The other category, according to Sankhya, besides Prakriti, is Purusha, translates as person. If Prakriti is the vehicle, Purusha is the driver. It is our real identity. It's worth mentioning here that Sankhya and Yoga are dualist philosophies. It places spirit and matter as two distinct categories of existence. This is not the case in Prabhuji's teachings, which recognize matter as real for the experiencer, but non-existent as separate from consciousness, and therefore illusory. I still explain Purusha and Prakriti for two reasons. For delivering the point of identification and detachment in the line of yoga, because the concept and the terms are basic and relevant throughout yoga and Hinduism, while their meaning is applied according to the ontological basis of the school in question. Purusha is the conscious element, the observer, the experiencer, while Prakriti is the experienced, the inert matter. Okay? Matter appears conscious because of the indwelling Purusha. Imagine a puppet. It appears to be dancing and singing, and we may be even compelled to interact with it. Although we know that there is an unseen person who operates it. And when the puppeteer finishes the show, he puts away the lifeless doll. We can also relate to this when someone dies. The body is still there, though the person is gone. The eyes don't see, the ears don't hear, and no one speaks back to us. The reality is matter has no consciousness or life of its own. What animates the body and activates the perception is the Purusha, the consciousness. Now, what is the practice? In chapter 2, Sadhana Pada, verse 29 in the Yoga Sutras, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhayo, Stavnagani. Moral restraints, recommended behaviors, body posture, breath enrichment, withdrawal of the senses from their objects, concentration, meditation, and enlightenment are the 8 parts of the yoga system. It recommended to start with a set of restraints and observances, yamas and niyamas. Yamas are the moral restraints: non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, celibacy, non-possessiveness. Niyamas are the recommended behaviors: purification, contentment, austerity, study of the scriptures, and meditation on the Supreme Lord. Many people refer to these codes as like rules of conduct, sort of the 10 commandments of yoga. It's worth mentioning here that Prabhuji disputes referring to it as commandments. Even those from the Old Testament, he objects the translation to commandments, because the original Hebrew word means expressions or utterances. And similarly here, yamas and niyamas should not be taken on as rules to follow, to be good boys and girls. Those rather come to position us in the direction in which we are moving. They are important practices. Ahimsa, non-violence, is not to damage anyone, including one's own self. Conflict can happen between people because of differences of interest. It can happen within one's self for the same reason. Our desires go in many directions, even against our own ideals. It can make us frustrated, disappointment, and this is harmful. Ahimsa teaches us to live peacefully and harmoniously. Satya, truthfulness, we are lying to others. But even worse, we are lying to ourselves. We avoid seeing reality by telling ourselves all sorts of stories and excuses, by being biased. Then how do we expect to see our real nature? Asteya, non-stealing. Something we were given and we need to return is not our possession. We were given this body as a loan, and one day we will need to return it, whether we are ready or not. Further practices, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and dharana, they're helping us withdraw our senses from external objects and find out that the reality that we're so familiar with is happening not there, outside, but in consciousness. It's important to clarify that enlightenment is not a direct result of yogic practices, but these rather create favorable conditions for observation and self-inquiry. Prabhuji couldn't emphasize it more, this particular point. The transformation will never come from any external condition, but only by situating ourselves in the observer. And those yoga practices intend to turn our head in the right direction to see. Now, yoga is not only relaxing. It brings awareness and clarity. If we attended Hatha yoga classes, we were told to relax. How to relax? We bring our attention to the part of the body we intend to relax. Do we do the relaxation? No. We become aware of the tension. With the awareness, the tension reduces. And when tension is eliminated, when activity is avoided, this is the original state in which we are at. Relaxation. It's not by chance that Prabhuji tailored a term and named his message Retroprogressive Yoga, indicating the direction of a real spiritual endeavor. Retro, for turning back to our origin, back to our home. Progressive, because it's a movement of spiritual development, advancement from concealed consciousness toward the recognition of consciousness. From the animal to the divine, from instinct to intuition, from conditioning to freedom. The last read is from the Hatha Yoga chapter in Yoga Union with Reality. We cannot ignore the fact that we have drifted so far away from our true nature, that what is simple has become complicated, and that to be what we really are, to return to our essence, to come back to our center, what one might suppose to be the easiest thing, requires an immense investment of energy and sacrifice on our part. Yoga is a path of effort without effort, yet our effort will not cease until it has reached its maximum point. In the next lesson, we will continue to study Prabhuji's definition of yoga. Jai Prabhuji.